my new record, Adventures of the Wildflower, which is scheduled to be released in March 2021. This is a very special record for me, as of course all of my records, but there are some differences how I approached the project this time, and also it's just an interesting project, so I would like to share my thoughts about it. I have to begin with year 2013, where I recorded Blumenthal Flocks in Finland with wonderful Finnish musicians, and I really enjoyed working with them, and always thought that I would go back to Finland one day and make some kind of follow-up of Blumenthal Flocks. And this is a Blumenthal Flocks record I'm talking about, with Werner on trumpet, Antti Latvian on bass, Olavi Louhivuori on drums and percussion, and Panu Saulainen on vibraphone. But years passed and I've been very busy with other projects, so I still kept it on the back of my mind. Until a couple of years ago, I met Jarmo Saari at Jazz Ahead in Bremen. Somebody just introduced him to me. We talked and he told me that he plays different guitars and even theremin and glass harp, which kind of got me excited because I immediately envisioned all those sounds on my record. But of course I did not think seriously about him until I looked him up on YouTube, and I actually really was taken by his work with another great Finnish musician, Jukka Perkko, who plays saxophone. So the sound and everything about it spoke to me. That's how I started to really think seriously about going to Finland again. My imagination started to run, and I already thought that it would be a great band to have my rhythm section from Blumenthal Flocks plus Jarmo and Jukka Perkko. I had to substitute trumpet with the saxophone because I loved Werner's work on Blumenthal Flocks. Werner plays trumpet, and I would want to work with him again, but I couldn't have more than 6 people in a band, so I just decided to use saxophone this time. And anyway, I wanted different sound. I always want different sound on my different projects. So that worked out really well. I have a lot of things to tell about those wonderful Finnish musicians. Jarmo Saari proved to be a wonderfully creative guitar player, and yes, indeed, he also played some theremin and glass harp, but those are very colorful effects, so I did not use too much of it on the record. But he played different guitars, including steel string guitar and nylon string guitar, and of course electric guitar, which he made all kind of sounds on it, and definitely he was wonderfully creative. All his solos were just expressing the subject. He did not only play on chord changes, but he always was keeping his eyes on the image of the song. And the same I could say about Olavi Louhivuori. His drumming was also so in tune with everything that was going on in the story, and of course my story, Adventures of the Wildflower, was already shaped up by the time I recorded, and I told everybody about what we are playing, what was in each song, which actually, of course, songs were kind of self-descriptive, like it's chickens, we played chickens, which was really fun to do, and or thunder shower, or waking up in the spring, or germination, weed in the garden. All of those songs were self-descriptive, of course, but also there was a story behind them. And Yuka Perka, who I worked with for the first time, was awesome. And he, like Chris Potter, he did not need any fixes. Everything he played was perfect. It was right on the money, and wonderful sound. Anyway, I feel affinity with all of those people, and I was glad to work with Antti and Panu again. I can tell a lot of good things about each of them. Panu Savolainen, he is the youngest member of the group. When we recorded Blumenthal Flocks, he was just 23 years old, but awesome player. And he has such a lightness, such a liveliness, carefree, easygoing feeling. So I was really impressed, and of course he did a great job also on Adventures of the Wildflower. When he starts soloing, listen to it, I don't know about you, but I start smiling, because it almost feels like I'm sipping that champagne, because it's like that's how his playing affects me. It's just very unique feeling of lightness and happiness. So all of those musicians are equally great, and all of them brought everything they had to the project. But then why the flower? Of course, Blumenthal Flocks city had a name Blumenthal Flocks, which is a flower, flocks. Even though it was not about the flower, it was about the smells, all kind of smells. But and I did not really chosen the flower theme for Adventures because Blumenthal Flocks had a flower name. But I came across a new study about plants, how they communicate with each other by releasing chemicals into the air through their leaves, or releasing those chemicals through the roots, and warning other plants around them about like fungus or bugs attack, or any kind of other troubles. And that was really cool to understand that plants can communicate with each other, which definitely sparked my imagination. And I started to think how a single plant would lead a life, being able to communicate with the world outside. And I decided that my story will be about the flower. I had to narrow down my choice to a certain species. I narrowed down my choice to the columbine flower, which is Aquilegia. That's a Latin name, I think, for the columbine flower. And that's what I chosen to be a center character of my story. The reason I like this particular flower because my grandmother had a lot of that species, columbine species, in her garden, and My childhood was surrounded by columbines, which my grandmother really loved, and they were growing in her garden and in the orchard, and she never weeded them out because she called them little bells, pink and white and blue. And one time I was trying to help her with a weeding, doing pulling some weeds from the soil and in the orchard, and I pulled some columbines out, and she was upset. So I remember that. Anyway, that was the flower which always been present in my grandmother's garden. But I was surprised to learn that it's not a perennial flower, it's actually a biennial flower, which blooms on the second year and then dies, but it seeds itself. And it was an important piece of information for me to learn, so I would know how to build my story. And that's how my adventures of the Wildflower story started to shape up. Definitely it started from the seed and then germination and then seeing the world and what happened to that plant during its life. The story came out to 18 parts. It's much bigger than any of my writings for previous cities. So since it was so big and developed, it inspired me to paint more pictures. So I painted 9 pictures to illustrate the story, and they arranged from smaller pictures to bigger pictures. So that's the smallest one. That's just that's a bee, and the biggest one, bigger sizes were like this. That's the chickens, and I painted my own chickens, the chickens that we have right outside in the chicken coop. So I decided, I'd rather let my chickens have a little bit of glory. So you would look at them and say, yeah, that's Yelena's chickens. What happened? So I had to really extend the size of the book because I had to about 28, 32 pages. Now it's 44 pages because there are a lot of pages of the text of the story, and of course the illustrations, and of course the picture, the photographs of the band, which I had to really only use a few because everything else the story took. So that's something that is different. This is a different approach that I took because the story is much more developed than other stories that I had, for lions or for desert. In the shadow of a cloud was kind of also a pretty coherent story, but I'm not confusing myself with a writer. I'm a musician who tries to write, who writes the story to support the music. Maybe I should explain why I decided to include my Biteverse poetry and my paintings in my to accompany my musical projects, my records. In 2013, I was ready to release Glass Song CD, and I had my friend over, and we were listening to the tracks from Glass Song, and I actually I was telling my friend what the music is about, how I feel, how I perceive the music, what is going on there, what images I see in my head when this and that track is playing. So she was very fascinated, and she said it's very interesting and really helps me, not a musician, not a professional, to actually understand your music. And she said maybe you should include it in your booklet so other people would probably appreciate it like me. And that's how it started. I started to not only imagine what's going on in my music, but actually write it down in kind of poetic way, because I couldn't just say, oh, well, I see that or this. But yeah, it came out to be more and more conceptual every time I got more and more coherent with the story, which in Adventures of the Wildflower actually kind of peaked, because this is the most developed story I had so far. And the art, also my art, also came to be because of the certain situation. And the situation was with my record Lions, which was next after the last song. Lions, of course, are animals that you cannot just go outside and make a picture of them unless you live in Africa. So I was searching for the image that I could use for my cover art, and I couldn't find any that I would like and that would fit to my the image that I had in my mind. Even though I even went to the zoo and spent the whole day making pictures of two lions that were in our zoo. Also, when I was traveling, every time I saw anything connected to lions, like lions on the door, lions statues, and everywhere lions, I always made a picture and to consider for my cover art. But I didn't like any of it, and then I thought I have to do it on my own. I have to do it myself. I have to paint a picture, and I did paint a picture of lions, and I guess it was something that was closer to what I actually envisioned, so I was happy about it. And since that time I included only my art for cover art, and for anything else, if I felt like I have to include more art in the record, like colors, I included more and leaving everything behind. There were few pictures inside, but in the Adventures of the Wildflower, of course, I had the most number of illustrations and pictures, my own, and that's how also it's different. So the booklet for the Wildflower is actually the biggest booklet I had. It's 44 pages, and it's still not the book, of course. It's the text is small, but it's readable. So the text takes up a lot of pages here. Not everyone I know will read it, but I would advise you to, because I think it's really really nice story that came out. I'm kind of happy how it came out, because the characters of my story, of course, the plants and insects, chickens, mushrooms, even the dog and the mouse, and the people too. And I mean, there are a lot of characters but they all live on the same plot of land, and they manage to live together peacefully, even though they not always agree with each other. But that communal living, they find a way to coexist on the same plot of land, and I think it's very important image for our times, especially for our troubled times now. I think it's very powerful image that we should keep our eyes on the nature and how nature finds the way to coexist for all species or all kind of life. So the fullness of life, acceptance, friendship, loyalty, hope. I think I dare to think this is all in my story, and this is a message of my story. So I would advise you to read it. In any case, enjoy this project, Adventures of the Wildflower, and I hope you will. And thank you.